Okay, I think we can start now. So welcome everyone to the GoodWe Plus program with the first module. My name is Theo and I'm based in Germany, and I will guide you through the first and probably the second module. With us today we also have David and Lindeve from South Africa who will answer your questions in the background. And in case you have any questions, feel free to write it in the Q&A section. This way we can keep track of what questions we answered, and it helps a bit. So this first module is about our GoodWe portfolio and application. I see now that the dates here are a bit old, but anyways. All webinars are via the Zoom app. We do recommend that you use a PC. Sometimes it doesn't really work that well on the tablets and phones, but you can try it anyways. Each module consists of different chapters and they all have some questions to them. And to pass each module, you need to answer with at least 70, or you need to have correct answers on at least 70% of all questions in one module. Sorry for that. If you have any difficulties answering the questions, then we can also send you a Google form in the chat, and this way you can answer it that way as well. So for you who have tablets or phones, you can, maybe it's easier to use the Google form. And after you completed the first module, the second module, and the third module, then we will, about 1 week after, we will send you an email with the evaluation of everything. And in case you passed, you will also get a certificate that you're a GoodWe Plus installer. I think the second module will be held next week on Tuesday, and the third one next week on Thursday, if I remember correctly. So the GoodWe Plus is a installer incentive program. So as an installer, you get some benefits. First of all, you get to learn our products and are a bit more comfortable, hopefully, when you install them. Not only that, you also qualify as a GoodWe Plus installer, and you can we issue certifications that you can have on your website, for example. We also have additional hands-on trainings for our GoodWe Plus installers, and we do offer an additional warranty extension. And this applies to all grid tie inverters up to 20 kilowatt that are installed within the EU, UK, Norway, or Switzerland. Moreover, they also need to be connected to our SEMS portal to receive this warranty extension. Yes, and also some additional after sales and warranty benefits, including this one. So how to become a GoodWe Plus installer? First off, to become a GoodWe Plus installer, you need to set up a company account in the SEMS portal. And to receive this organization code, you need to contact us. So you can contact your GoodWe sales team to receive this code. When you have set up a company account in SEMS, then you just need to take part in all 3 GoodWe Plus training modules and pass them with at least 70% correct answers. And after that, you are qualified as a GoodWe Plus installer. Yes, and some of you might not know if you're already are a GoodWe Plus installer or not. In that case, you can log into your SEMS account either on the portal here. You go log in and then you click on management. Sorry, I don't think you see this one here. No. You click on management, and then after that you click on warranty. If it says how to get 10 years warranty for free, you're not yet a GoodWe Plus installer, but if it says approved unit with 10 years warranty, then you have passed, so to say. So this is a simple way to check if you're already a GoodWe Plus installer. It's also possible to do with the app. We also have a SEMS monitor app. You can also there, it works exactly the same as the portal. You just log in, you click here on the bottom menu on discovery, and then you can click here on warranty, and on there you will see a similar window. Either it says how to get the warranty, or it says approved units. And in case you have approved units here, then you are already GoodWe Plus installed. Okay, so now let's go over the agenda today. So first off, I will introduce GoodWe as a company. After that, we will move on to our residential inverters, talk a bit about them, and then after that, the CNI and utility scale inverters, and then we will also talk about our energy storage products, so both hybrid inverters but also batteries. And then lastly, we'll talk about the different communication boxes and additional communication modules that we have, as well as our monitoring portal. So shortly about GoodWe. GoodWe is a global company. We are quite young, actually. We started in, I think, 2010, mainly then in China and East Asia, but since then we've grown quite a bit, and now we are basically active on every continent. Our EMEA office, so covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa. It's based in Germany, here in Munich. Is our main office for that, and from here we distribute from all of this region. But we also have local offices in, for example, South Africa, in Netherlands, in UK, in Spain, and so on. Yes. Yeah. Another thing to mention is that also our servers, so for the Sense portal, when you register your account, all information is also stored here in Germany. So all installations that are within EMEA will be stored on the servers in Germany. Here are some awards from 2018. We started in EMEA region. And since then, we got a big award on our 3-phase string inverters. 2019, we also got a #1 storage hybrid inverter manufacturer from Wood Mackenzie, which was a big leap for us, and so on. Here you also see our after-sales service presence. So I mean, we're based in Germany, but we also have technical hotlines for most of the European countries, and also here in South Africa. We also support many different languages, and we also have local warranty stock. For you who attend this webinar, I guess most of you will, in case you have any after-sales issues or inquiries, then you will need to contact this EU or other EMEA number, which will have then technical support in English and Arabic. Yes, and also our portfolio as a teaser for the next part of this is that we have a very broad portfolio ranging from 700 watt up to 250 kilowatt. With both on-grid inverters and storage inverters in there. So before we start with our residential inverters, I thought we could have a short quiz. If Lindeve, if you want to start the quiz. Okay, so you should have a quiz popped up in front of you at the moment. With the first question is, where's the European GoodWe main office located? I think I made this clear. Also, how many correct answers is necessary? Number 3 is, which requirements is necessary for inverters to get the GoodWe Plus warranty extension? And where are the GoodWe servers for European customers located? We'll give you a few minutes to answer the questions, and then we will move forward. I cannot really see how many answered the polls yet, so I would suggest, Linda, if you can see that, you can just end the polls when I think we can give them. Can give you guys maybe 2 more minutes or 1 more minute, and then we can move forward.
Hi, Theo. We can give it 1 moment. We're sitting on 77% now.
Okay, great.
Closing the poll now.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move forward. If in case you didn't have time to answer all questions, we can also post a Google form in the chat. Okay, so now let's talk about our residential inverters. Here you have our portfolio. So this is how we divide it. I mean, you can divide it however you want, but we have string inverters, and then we have storage inverters, and then battery storage or energy solutions. And then to tie it all together, here in the bottom, we have the energy management and communication that covers all of our inverters, so to say. Within the string inverter segment, we have residential, CNI, and utility scale. And now we will start talking about our residential solutions. This is the different residential series that we have, or currently have. As you see here, you have the XS, the DNS, and the SDT generation 2. The first two, the XS and the DNS, they are single-phase inverters. The XS is our smallest one, and you can have it as small as 700 watt. So that will be like compatible with maybe 2 panels, 3 panels. But it goes up to 3 kilowatts, and the size is all the same. And similar with the DNS. The SDT has a much larger range in size, and therefore its physical size also changes a bit. But apart from that, you can see here the other difference between them is that they have different amount of MPPTs. The XS, of course, only have 1 because of its size. The DNS is a single-phase 2-string inverter, which is quite popular in the single-phase market. In case you are living in a three-phase market, then this is the only inverter for residential applications, and it comes from 4 up to 15, or actually up to 25, but then between 17 and 25 we call it CNI segment, but it can of course be used for residential applications as well. All single-phase inverters have no fans, so they're cooled by natural convections, which make them very quiet. Also, the STT-G2 has natural convection up to 6 kilowatt, but from 8 kilowatt and onwards, it has fan cooling that adjusts depending on the load. So it should still be very quiet even after 8 kilowatt. What more? Good thing to know is that they all come with Wi-Fi as standard, but you can also have RS-485 communication. You can also have LAN, you can have 4G and Bluetooth. So there are many different communication options depending on where you live and what possibilities you have. And moreover, they all come with an IP65 cover, so they're very robust and also well protected against humidity and the dust. Yes, and also I should mention that here you also see another big difference is the max DC voltage. This is the string length that you can have. The single-phase inverters, of course, have much lower than the three-phase inverters, but still here you see some difference between them. Yes. All of our residential inverters also have a built-in export limit function. With the DNS and the excess inverter, the only thing you actually need to do is you can buy additional CTs from us, and you connect them directly to the inverter, and then on the other side you connect them just before your house meter, and this way you can adjust how much power you want to export into the grid, or if you want to have everything for self-consumption. In case you have the three-phase inverter, you need to have a smart meter, so not only the CTs, but basically it's the same principle. You just connect them to the inverter, and this smart meter here that then is connected to the CTs. As I said before, most of them have a fanless design, which makes them very suitable for installing indoors. So here you can see the cooling fins on the back side. This is our excess inverter. And as you see here, the excess inverter, it ranges from 7 to 3 kilowatt. It has a size or a weight of approximately 6 kilo. So it's very lightweight for being at least a larger one, the 3 kilowatt. And the size of it is the same size as an A4 paper. So it's very, very small, and you can have it in your backpack and then go and install it directly. But even though it's small, it has a very high efficiency, and also all of our inverters can have an AC overloading up to 10%. And this means that the maximum output power is actually 10% higher than the nominal output power. So if you buy the 3 kilowatt inverters, it can actually output 3.3 kilowatt as max. And yeah, it also has a robust body made of die-cast aluminum. So it's no plastic covers or such that can break easily. It also helps improve the cooling of the device. Yes, and here they all operate between -30 up to 60 degrees Celsius, which makes them good to install even in Scandinavia as well in South Africa, maybe, or Spain for that. Here you see the excess in comparison to some other inverters which have the same output power. So as you see, this one is much smaller and much lighter than most competitors in that segment. If we instead look at the DNS inverter, you see that this one, main difference is that it has 2 MPPTs. So it has one extra MPPT, has a higher maximum input voltage, but it also has a very low startup voltage and high voltage MPPT range. This means that it can start producing energy very early during the day when there's only a little bit of sun. And also it stops producing much later in the evening when the sun is low and only a few rays reaches the panel. For the STT-G2, this has very many different models depending on the size. As you see here, it's between 4 up to 25 kilowatt. For the residential market, or up to 15 kilowatt, it has 1000 of input voltage, but after that it has 1100. So the larger the 25 kilowatt has a bit higher input voltage. And as I said before, it's fan cooled from 8 kilowatt and onwards. And as all of our residential inverters and CNI inverters for that as well, they can handle temperatures up to, or between -30 up to 60 degrees Celsius. Here you see the bottom side of the STT-G2. So what's good with also not only this one, but also the XS and the DNS is that they have no removable panels when you do the installations. Everything is accessible on the bottom side. And here you see the string input, the DC switch, the USB port for any Wi-Fi or LAN dongle. And here you have some communication port, and here's the AC output. And even if this one has a dual MPPT, it has different amount of input strings depending on the size. So here you can see a bit of a table. So from up to 10 kilowatt, it has 2 inputs. So 1 input per MPPT, and then it increases up to having here at 25 kilowatt, it has 3 inputs for the first MPPT and 2 inputs for the second one. It's also possible to order them either with a small screen, as you see here maybe on the picture, but also without the screen. And if you don't have a screen on the inverter, then you will need to configure it with our app. And from experience, I can say that it's much easier with the app if you have access to it, and might take a bit to know or might need to get familiar with it at first. But then it's really fast and easy, and you have way more options when you do this than in case you have the screen. Here are some communication options for our inverters. As you see here, depends a bit in case you have multiple units or a single unit. In case you only have one unit, you have different internet communication. Bluetooth in this case is not really internet communication, but it's used to either commission the inverter or set up the 4G module. So you can have Wi-Fi, LAN, or 4G. You can also have some load monitoring or power export functions. And to have this, you need some additional devices. For the load monitoring and power export limitation, you need to have the HomeKit, either HomeKit 1000 for single phase or 3000 for 3-phase. In case you only want to have the power export function, it's enough to have a smart meter. And then there are also different ones depending if you have a single phase or 3-phase grid. And these are the CTs90s, as I showed in the beginning. So to the XS and the DNS, you can connect them directly to the inverters, and you do not need to have any device in between. For multiple units, in case you want to maybe have a bigger installation and connect 2 10 kilowatt STTs, then you can connect them over RS-45 in daisy chain, so just in series, and then to our logger, and then the logger can then have any of these devices, or at least a smart meter. So, short overview before we have our next quiz. Our residential inverters, they have high efficiency, which makes them produce more power and less heat, partly due to our special cooling system. They also have multiple MPPTs, at least the DNS and the STTG2, and they all have this power export limit function, either with CTs or smart meter. They are lightweight and compact design, and they have a IP65 protection. And due to the cooling system, they are usually very quiet. And of course, we have the monitoring portal for free, which we will talk about more later on. So, Lindebe, if you want to start the next quiz. And in case you have any questions, feel free to post it in the Q&A section, and me or David or Lindebe will try to answer it. Right we go. So we'll give you a few minutes to answer the questions, and then we will move forward. I see there's a question from Solar Systems. Please, in the future, if you have any questions, post them in the Q&A section instead of the chat. This makes it easier for us to keep track of it. But to answer your questions, if there are any CTs for over 250 amps and above, our CTs handle up to 120 amps and are rather small. So like I don't know, like the size of a dice. The cable size needs to be less than 16 millimeters in diameter. And for larger applications, in case you want to have 250 amps, then you will need to use one of our communication boxes, which I will present later on. And to that, you need to buy third-party CTs, and then you can have any CTs you want. They only need to be 5 amps on the secondary side, and then on the primary side, you can size them as you wish. And again, there's another question in the chat. Please post them in the Q&A section. And it's asking if we will bring generation 2 inverters with 3 MPPTs. We will probably not bring any residential inverters with 3 MPPTs, but the larger ones, so if what we go through now, the CNI section, there you can find 25 kilowatt inverters with 3 MPPTs. Okay, let's go on. I'll see if there's one more here. Yes, one other question is if how to choose inverters with or without display. And well, basically, it's, when you buy it from your distributor, there should be one option with and one option without. They have different item numbers as well. But even if you have a display inverters, you can commission them with the app. So the app always works to commission the inverters, even if it has no display or if it has a display. I hope that answered your question. Okay, let's move forward, and I can try to answer some more questions later on. So let's now talk about our CNI inverters. So from 17 up to 136 kilowatt. And here you see all the different series. And I hope that you recognize this one. It's the STT-G2, but only from 17 up to 25 kilowatt. And as you see here, it also has a bit higher DC voltage now, but otherwise it's quite similar to the other ones. The different otherwise between the different series that we have here, we have the SMT, we have the MT and the HT. I know it can be a bit difficult with all the names, but if you remember the size, it's mainly one inverter series per size, which makes it easier. So previously we had a question if there was any three-phase inverter with 3 MPPTs, and this would then be the SMT series. This is slightly larger than the STT-G2, but it comes with 3 MPPTs. And this is mainly the difference between these inverters, apart from the output power, of course. So this one has 2 MPPTs, here you have 3, here you have 4, and the HT is for large rooftop or CNI application, and here you have between 10 up to 12 MPPTs, depending on the model. And apart from that, the main difference is maybe, yeah, apart from the MPPTs and the output power, I mean, there are some minor differences, of course. The higher you go here, the more current they can handle. So with the new high power modules, then they have quite high current, and then you also need an inverter to handle that. And at least the SMT and the HT, especially the HT, which is much larger, has 15 amps of input current, which makes it quite suitable for these new big panels. But also the MT has different models that are compatible with those modules, and also the SMT can handle it up to a certain limit, of course. Then you also have some optional communications. Here you see that the standard communication is Wi-Fi, but for the MT and the HT, you have RS-45, but you can of course choose the LAN, the PLC, or any other communication that you want to have. Moreover, what differentiates them is the different safety functions, and this is also a big difference compared to the residential inverters. So here you see that you have the PID recovery function. I think I will talk a bit more about that later, but basically it prolongs the lifetime of your modules. And this is optional for all of our CNI range apart from the STT-G2. AFCI is arc fault circuit interrupter. It's also a safety feature that's optional for all of our CNI inverters, and this basically breaks in case there's a damaged cable on the DC side, it can break or stop the operation to prevent any fire. Here shortly is also our utility series, and this is an extension of this one here, as you see, of the HT. It looks the same, but it has a bit different hardware inside. So this is for ground mount systems and goes up to 250 kilowatt. Has a much higher AC output voltage, so you need some kind of transformer station in most cases. Also has 12 MPPTs and 2 inputs per MPPT. As you see here, the DC input current is quite high, also to be compatible with new high power modules. Yes, and apart from that, it has similar safety features as our CNI segment, but it also has reactive power compensation during night time. One of the main features of our inverters is that it has many MPPTs, and this is very, very important, mainly in CNI applications, because then you have different tilts maybe on your roofs, on your ground mounts, you have maybe different terrain. You can have different structures on the roof that causes shading, and this causes the whole string to suffer from one shade that's on only a few modules. But in case you have many MPPTs, then the inverter will optimize each and every MPPT so that you have a higher generation, basically. Also, our CNI inverters have very compact design. Here you can see the output power of 80 kilowatt. It weighs, this is our MT inverter, then it has a weight of roughly 65 kilos. And comparing that to other competitors on the market, then you see that if you have this weight, then you get much less AC output power. And if you compare then the AC output power of this one with one of ours, it would be the SMT. And then you see that our SMT then much lighter and almost half the size. As I mentioned before, also for the residential inverters, these CNI inverters, they have the extra AC output power. And it basically means that here, if you have a DC side of 1.5 megawatt going into the inverter, if it would not have this, then you have a 1 megawatt inverter installed, then you would get, it would cap this or clip this power at 1 megawatt, and you would get 1 megawatt out to your grid or to for consumption. With our, they can operate during a long time on 10% additional power, and then you also get 10% additional power to your grid or into your facility. This is the PID recovery board that's integrated in the inverter. PID recovery stands for potentially induced degradation and is happening on the modules of natural causes, mainly on silicon modules, and it happens more when it's humid or on higher altitudes as well. So in case you have any environment like that, in larger installations, you usually install some kind of anti-PID box to prolong the lifetime of your installation. But in our inverters, we have this function integrated into the inverter, so you don't need to install any additional boxes or such. And what it does is it puts a reverse voltage between the ground and the panels during nighttime to sort of reverse this degradation that's happened during the daytime. And this is also possible to retrofit on field for the SMT and the MT inverters in case they haven't been ordered with that option. Our CNI range also have a very high temperature adaptability. This means that yes, they operate up to, I think, 60 degrees Celsius, but they only start derating from 45 degrees, or for the MT series from 50 degrees. And this means that they, after 45 degrees, they will slowly start to reduce the power to not overheat. But also because of this 10% additional power means that at 50 degrees Celsius, all of our C9 inverters can operate at 100% of nominal power. And this is not the internal temperature, but the ambient temperature of the inverter. So in most cases, if you do not install them in direct sunlight or in a closed environment, it should not reach over 50 degrees, I hope. And then it should be possible to operate them at full capacity all the time. Here you can see the different communication options for our CNI inverters. This one I hope you recognize from the previous one. So here you see the different internet communication. For load monitoring and power export limit, here you will need to have a different box. This is called SEC 1000, and this one is the one where you can have larger CTs. So to this one, there are no CTs coming with the box, because the lines usually differs quite a lot depending on which installation. So instead, it's best to buy, or you need to buy third-party CTs externally, and then you can size them according to your installation. And the only requirement from our side is that they have 5 amps on the secondary side to be connected to this box. Yes, and moreover here, if you have multiple units, you can either choose to connect them in a daisy chain, exactly like the residential segment, over RS-45, and then you use this box instead, which is the same as here. Or you can use PLC communication to communicate over the AC line. And then we have a similar looking box, but with a different name. Different name and different functions then. Here you see some slight overview. High efficiency, robust design. So also here you have the die-cast aluminum, but instead of being white, they're red now. They're also very low weight and very compact, which makes installation very easy and efficient. You have a high power yield with your additional AC output power, and as well as the temperature limits that it can handle. And you have a lot of different communication options, such as Wi-Fi, RS-45, PLC, etc., etc. Yes, so let's have our next quiz before talking about our energy storage products. And again, in case you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A section. If I don't answer them, then David will try to answer them as well. So first question is, what's the max ambient temperature for the MT inverter to operate at 100% of the nominal power? This is what we just talked about with the high temperature adaptability of the inverters. Second question is, how many MPPTs does the GoodWe HT series have? And this is our largest inverter. This is the one that was the very big CNI inverter, or also even ground mount utility scale inverter. And if our inverters are possible to be installed outside, well, they all have an IP65 cover. And what's the nominal AC output voltage of the 250 kHt? This is the ground mount inverter, and as I mentioned, you will need to have a transformer station most likely. We'll give you a few minutes to answer the questions, and then we will move on to our storage products. One question here is about how GoodWe will recommend the size of the inverter. And well, this depends on a lot of different factors, and it's not only for GoodWe inverters, but for inverters in general. You need to take into account the irradiation in on your site. You need to take into account temperature differences, also the angle and so on, and in case there are any shades on your panels. And depending on this, then you might need to have different kind of inverters. But personally, I would say that some DC oversizing would in 99% of the cases be good or economically justified, because the rating of the panels are at very difficult to reach conditions, and hardly no one will reach those conditions during all of the time. And therefore, to optimize the generation, I would almost always have higher DC side than AC side. But in case you're wondering for a specific case, then you are free to contact us. We also have an online tool that you can use called EC Designer, and there you can sort of play around a bit with the DC and the AC side of our inverters.
Theo, you can continue. The poll is ended.
Yes, I'll just answer one question about if the inverters can be installed in Romania, and I must say I'm not sure now, but if you contact us, we can check if they can be installed in Romania. I think in Romania it depends on the grid operator, so you don't have, there's no like standard that's the same for every DSO. So in case you're curious about Romania in specific, you are free to contact us, and we can give you the requirements that inverters require, and then you can check if it's possible for Romania. Okay, so let's talk about our storage products. Here we have our storage portfolio. So in there we have both hybrid and AC coupled. AC coupled are battery inverters connected on the AC side. So there's no PV input here, but only a battery charged from AC current. And here it can be a bit messy, maybe. There's a big jungle with many different inverters here. But to make it a bit easy, we can divide it maybe in these two here. They're quite similar. They're both single-phase inverters from about 3 up to 5 kilowatt. They also both have low voltage batteries, or are compatible with the low voltage batteries, and have, this one has also comes with models with one, but mainly they have 2 MPPTs. Yes, and here, this one in the middle here is a all-in-one solution. So this is both a inverter with batteries It's like a big tower. Also one phase and compatible with the low voltage batteries, which are included already. And apart from that, these ones are all low voltage batteries, the first three ones. After that, the E8 is the single phase high voltage battery, single phase inverter that's compatible with high voltage batteries. And after that, we have the only three-phase hybrid inverter. So in case you're looking for single phase, yes, it's a bit many to choose from maybe, but the big difference is the battery compatibilityness, in case if it's low voltage or high voltage, and the size of the inverter. For three-phase inverters, it's only this one, so it makes it quite simple. And this one ranges from 5 up to 10 kilowatt, only compatible with high voltage batteries, and yeah. And here we have our battery storage inverters. We also have a bit of different ones, but mainly these first ones, or this one is a single phase low voltage battery inverter. The next one is a single phase high voltage battery inverter. And here you have the three-phase inverter for residential applications. And this one on the far right-hand side is a new product. It says new 2021. We have it now, but it's not ready yet. So it will probably be ready to order in 2022, in the first quarter. And this is a very different from the other ones because it's a big, only for CNI application. It has 1 MPPT, has 50 kilowatt, and is for very specific application. All of our storage inverters, they have a wide temperature range, as similar to the CNI range as we looked at before. So from -25 up to 60 degrees, and have a full load operation at up to 45 degrees. Almost all of them, apart from the new one, the BTC here, and also the all-in-one storage tower, they have IP65 cover. So they can be installed both outdoors and indoors. This 4,000 meters might not be that important for most of you, in case you don't live at very high altitude. But this also means that they have that the components inside inverters is living up to a much higher safety standard, because at higher altitudes you need to take into account the conductivity of the air, and therefore you need to have better quality components and higher safety standards. And also, this is also very interesting that all of our storage portfolio, apart from the CNI, the new one, has fanless cooling. So they're very quiet. This, I would say is one of the main features, is that everything is included in the package. So when you order a storage inverter of any kind, then you have everything included. You have the internet communication module, you have the smart meter that can limit the export, that can give you load monitoring, and so on. And the wires to the battery and to the smart meters are in most cases already pre-wired. So you just need to either connect it or you cut it and then attach, and that reduce the length of the wire. This is one of the most one of the most likable features of our storage inverters, or unique maybe. All of our storage inverters have an integrated backup function. It means that they all have 2 AC outputs. So on the bottom side, you will see 2 different AC outputs, one coming, okay, now this is on the side, but they're both located on the bottom side. So one going directly to the grid, and one going to is the backup output. And to the normal one, you connect it exactly like a grid tie inverter, so you can goes directly to the grid, and then you can connect any loads to that one. To the other one, you can connect important loads that can also be powered on by the battery and the PV modules when the grid is off. So this, okay, no, I don't have that one, but it's usually a slide showing when the grid is off as well. But so if the grid fails, then this line here will go gray and will not work. This means that the normal loads connected here will no longer work because the inverter needs to disconnect from the grid in case there's any grid failure on here. However, these loads here then will be isolated and will still be powered by the battery and the PV modules as long as there's enough energy here. So it means it gives you a bit more flexibility in case you live in a place where the grid is not so stable, and then you can have additional loads connected here that will always be on. However, when the grid is on, there's no difference in priority between these loads and these loads here. So these loads, when the grid is on, can also be powered by the grid going here, or by the battery or by the PV. So there's no difference between the loads when the grid is on. So when the grid fails, that these ones will keep on working and these ones not. And the switch time when the inverter disconnects and keep on powering these loads are under 10 milliseconds. So it's not noticeable for the human eye. Here are some different application scenarios when you would like maybe to have install a hybrid installation or a battery inverter. Here's a complete new one. Or you can have a complete only battery installation in your house. Also possible to add a hybrid installation to an already existing on-grid installation. Maybe you want to have some additional panels and you also want to have some battery capacity. Or in case you already have an installation with, let's say, a competitor that's not non-GoodWe brand, but you want to add some battery capacity to it, but not change all of it, then you can just buy a GoodWe battery inverter and connect it on the AC side. And this one will also work with any other inverter brand, which is good. Here you see the priority of the self-consumption or the priority of the energy flow. So from the PV modules, it usually flows to the loads first. Then if the loads are full, it tries to charge the battery. And in case the loads are all supplied and the battery is full, then the extra energy will go on to the grid. Of course, you can set up in case you don't want to export anything to the grid, you can have this to 0 and then it will just stop producing when all of this is full. Or seen from the load point of view, the loads will always try to first use the PV energy and then the battery and then lastly the grid energy. But of course, there are different settings in the app on the inverters that you can set up via the app. And then you can change this in case you want to charge your battery during a specific time of the day, or you want to have additional battery backup power, or many different scenarios. Here's this integrated backup function explained a bit more in detail. So as you see, basically you have your backup loads here and your on-grid loads, but they're both powered here inside by the grid, as I tried to explain before. And there's no external equipment that you need to install. Everything is integrated, and this comes as a standard. There's no optional functions to have this. It's always there. And one other good function that's very not so common is that our ET series, our three-phase hybrid inverter, can support 100% unbalanced output. In case you have 3 different loads on different phases and they all pull different amount, then this one can accommodate this to not reduce the total power in all of the lines. Yes, as I said before, in the app, you can do many different settings. You can change the operation mode of it. You can also set different limits of the batteries in the app, and it's all easily customized. And also, we have our own batteries now, but of course, our inverters are also compatible with many different brands of batteries. We do have a list of approved batteries, and please always, before you install any battery with our inverter, please always check that it's compatible. And to do so, you can either click on this link here, or you can go to our website and download it. And this is basically just a PDF stating all of our inverters here and all of the batteries, and then it checks if it's compatible or not. With our ET and BT series, it's also possible to connect many of the inverters in parallel. So you can, what you need is to have a communication box here called SSC 1000S. And then you can connect several inverters to the same grid output, and they will all work in parallel. However, the only limitation here is when the grid fails, then all inverters with the PV, the batteries, and the backup loads will all be isolated to that specific inverters. But when the grid is on, then they will all work unionized to provide a very efficient operation. Here's one example of that. So here you see the inverter. Here's the communication box. Here's the terminal, AC terminal. Here on this picture here, you can see the box and 6 different ET inverters with, I think these are BYD batteries maybe, underneath each one of them. And some overview here of our inverters. They all have this advanced backup function that can switch in less than 10 milliseconds. So this is UPS level switching. You can combine it in many different ways, either with PV, PV plus battery, battery only, and so on. And they all come with a built-in monitoring device. So everything is included in the package. You have the smart meter to monitoring your loads and also to ensure that you have some export control function. They're all very lightweight and easy, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but they're all also fanless apart from the CNI application. Yes, and here are also a short overview of our own batteries. These are new for this year. The Lynx Home U is already launched. So this is our low voltage battery. And the Lynx Home F is our high voltage battery, which is a tower solution like this. And this will come in early 2022. To look shortly on our low voltage battery, it's both this one and the high voltage battery are lithium iron phosphate, so it's very safe battery technology. Also very easy to install, and they also have or are working between -10 up to 50 degrees Celsius. Yes, this one comes, here you can see, this one comes in, you can have up to between 1 up to 6 units, and each unit has approximately 5 kilowatts. So you can size it accordingly. And each of them, as its low voltage battery, they all come with the BMU here included on the top. There's no additional equipment you need to buy to it. And for the high voltage battery, we'll probably provide some more information when it's released and closer to that. And then you will also know more about that one. Okay, so let's have our almost last quiz before, and then after this I will go through the monitoring portal And after that, we should be done. So here, the first question is where to find which battery is compatible with the GoodWe inverter. Yes, this one we mentioned. What is not included in the GoodWe storage inverter? As I said, everything is included. Maybe I didn't mention this, but if I didn't mention it during the presentation, I can mention it now. No of our storage inverters come with a display. On the grid tie inverters, you could have the options to either have it with or without display, but on our energy storage products, they all come without display, and instead you will need to have the app to commission them. And the switch time of our GoodWe backup function, yes, I did mention this as well. What's the maximum backup load capacity for ET 10 kilowatt inverters? I apologize, but I did not mention this. The backup has a limitation, the backup output, so it's limited to 1/3 of the nominal power per phase. So this means that, yeah, in this case, if you have a 10 kilowatt inverter, then you can have 1/3 of that per phase. In case you install more, the inverter will shut down and not work because it's overloaded on the backup output. So do not connect more than 1/3 of the nominal power per phase. Is an external switch box required for the GoodWe backup function? I have definitely answered that one. Up to how many ET-BT inverters can be connected in parallel with the 1000S? I'm not sure if I said how many. I think we went through the function. However, you can connect up to 10 of the ET-BT inverters. So in case you have a 10 kilowatt ET inverter, you can have them theoretically up to 100 kilowatt of hybrid power in one installation. We give you a few more minutes to answer all questions, and then we will talk about our portal. And to answer one question here in the chat, and also to emphasize the backup output does not mean that this is an off-grid inverter. So the storage inverters, they are not supposed to be used in off-grid mode. So you need to have some kind of grid connection. However, in case the grid fails, then it can supply the backup function. But it's not designed to be used completely without the grid. And it won't function properly in most cases in case you don't have any grid connection at all.
And you should also add here that you can't have stable backup output without batteries. So the backup output might go on, but you cannot have stable output if you do not have batteries on the inverter.
Yeah, good to mention. Thank you, David. I'll give you one more minute.
Theo, the poll is ended. You can continue.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now let's talk about our monitoring and communication options. So for monitoring, we have our SEMS portal. This is a web-based portal, but you can also use the app and basically access the same account. So what you do, here in the presentation that we will send out after all modules, you can click this link, or you can go to our website to find the correct website. When you go to the website, you log in with your company details or installer login. This is also the same portal that the end user uses. And by that, then you can have everything is connected, so to say. So you can see the end user installations that you have installed. The end user only see his or her installation and can follow the production and status of the plant. For installers, then it's really useful to use this portal for not only to have an overview of all of your plants, but also to see the status of the different installations that you have done. In case there's an error or any fault, then you can easily see it here. Sometimes you can even troubleshoot it through the platform instead of going there to site. You can see that, okay, it was just the Wi-Fi that wasn't really connecting that well. And that was easily solved. And that one you could have, for example, seen here over the portal. So when you log into the portal, this is the first page that you see. Here you have a sort of overview here on the top of the status of your different plans, how many have it false, how many are online or offline, waiting status or working. Here you also see the total generation and so on. And here after that, you have a list of all the different plans. In case you don't have a SEMS account yet, you can also go to the SEMS website, and then there's a small tab on the top side saying demo version. And here you find the 3 plans that are real, but we use them for demo purposes. In case if you have a plant as an installer or end user, you can click on your specific plant here, and you will come to the plant page, so to say. And here you first see on the top corner here, to explain what you see, is an overview of the plant. Under that, you have some weather forecasts connected to the location that you inputted. And on top here, you can see some latest measured power, the current battery status, if it's charging or discharging, and also the total capacity. You can also see here a bit of overview of the generation and so on. And here you have a graph over your whole plant. On the bottom side here, you see more detailed information linked to a specific device. In case you only have one inverter per installation, then this will be the same as you see here in the graph. But otherwise, if you have multiple inverters to one side, you can scroll through them here to get specific information from that device. So here you can see, for example, the model, the serial number, the current output power, the AC voltage, the DC voltage, and so on. It's very detailed, the information here. And in case you click here on curve, you will get to some advanced graphs. And here in this graph, you can, of course, choose a specific time. But here in the list, you can also choose a wide range of different values that you can check. So you can check the AC current, you can check the inverter temperature, you can check the total generation, the string current and voltage, this RSSI is the Wi-Fi strings, for example. And you can use this to troubleshoot a specific site remotely. And moreover, it's also possible to integrate weather station into our SEMS portal. So in case you have any pyranometer or temperature sensors, you can integrate it into our SEMS. And then on the bottom side here, you can also see how it will look like. And some other features is, you can have some overview on your lobby, for example, but you can also export data to Excel. And maybe one of the most important functions is that you have the alarm function. So you can get an email or ping in case there's an issue of any of your installed plans, and then you can know it even before the end user knows it. And in here, you can also have you can have one company account, and then you can have many sub-installer accounts, or you can have many different accounts linked to the same main account, so to say. And that's our SEMS portal. To talk a bit shortly now about our communication devices or additional devices that you can use. These are, sorry for this is wrong, should be for single inverters. So communication for single inverters, then you can use these smaller devices, so to say. I think we mentioned most of them during the presentation already. As I said before, the CTs here, this is a GoodWe CT. They can be connected directly to the TNS or XS to limit the power export. Otherwise, if you want to limit the power export, you can use either the GM here with 2 CTs or the GM3000 with 3 CTs. And in case you want load monitoring, then it's included in the storage inverters, but for string inverters, you will need to have the home kit. And here we have the home kit 1000 for single phase or 3000 for a 3-phase. And this one can also realize the export power limitation. For larger inverters, you have, yes, sorry, I should mention also with the home kit here, the home kit 1000 can also be used for already existing systems. So in case you have another non-GoodWe inverter, you can also use the home kit to measure the load and the power consumption, and then you can check this in our SEMS portal. And it can also be used to maybe before you install an inverter, you can install a home kit to measure the load consumption, and from that one you can check exactly when the customer is using energy and how much, and from that you can then size the PV system. Sorry, this slide before the quiz. For multiple inverters, we have a bit larger boxes, and the standard one is the ET Logger Pro. This is a data logger that you can connect up to 60 inverters to it. And from this one, you can then monitor all inverters, and you can do, in case you need to do a firmware update of the inverter, instead of going to every single one of them, you can do it directly from this one, and this will send it over to all of them. It's also possible to connect the third-party devices to this one. You can either use one of our meters like these ones to connect it, or you can use any third-party meter or weather station as long as they use Modbus RTU protocol. For larger inverters like CNI and maybe utility scale, then you will need to use different boxes. This, I think, is the most common one. These two are mainly for PLC communication. So in case you don't need PLC, then it's this one here, the SSE 1000. And this one communicates over RS-485, exactly like the ET Logger Pro. But it also have input for third-party CTs, as I said before. So also to this one, you can connect up to 6 inverters and then connect the third-party CTs and size them accordingly to your installation. And then you can have this load consumption monitoring. as well as the export power limit. And I think that was it. So now for our last quiz, and then in case you have any questions. So to which GoodWe monitoring device can weather station be connected to? I think I just mentioned this one. And what's the GoodWe monitoring portal called? I hope you know this. This is also where you need to have an account if you want to be a GoodWe Plus installer. Third question is, up to how many inverters can be connected to one EC Pro or SSC 1000? Fourth question is, which device can be used for load monitoring independent of the inverter model or brand? This was also mentioned. And lastly, is the SEMS monitoring platform free of charge? I hope you know the answer to that one. Give you a few more minutes to answer this quiz. And in case you have any questions, feel free to ask them. In case we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will get back to you with an email. And after all 3 modules, we will send you all the presentation materials as well. So, and as well as let you know if you passed all modules or not. So we'll wait until you have done all 3 modules to check how it went, and then we will send you the information.
Hi, Theo. We can close the poll now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so then in case there are no more questions, then I say thank you for participating, and the next module will be next week on Tuesday, I think, and during that one we will go through how to install and commission the ET inverter. So I'll try to show the inverter live and see how to show all connections, and then go through step by step with you guys so that you know how to install and commission it flawlessly. Okay, there are some questions coming in now. Okay, so when will we know if we are successful on today's quiz? We will know that after all 3 modules, and we'll send you an email letting you know how it went, as well with all presentation material. And in case you don't pass there are any modules that you don't pass, then we will, you can of course just retake it. And we have continuously, we have GoodWe Plus webinars each 2nd month, I think. Next one will be in January or February, and you can retake it then in case you don't pass. Okay, then I thank you all and wish you a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.